with us today. So we're going to go ahead and get ourselves started. And I want to start by expressing enormous appreciation for our guests who are joining us today, all the way from Minnesota to Cleveland to Oberlin, Ohio. We're pleased to have a group of distinguished guests with us today to provide a sounding board and feedback on project proposals, which students in Oberlin College Environmental Communications class fall 21 will be presenting today. And their work covers a lot of different areas. I have listed on the board here. Oh, we should hide this thing. That's good. So my students are going to be presenting on projects that focus on work we're doing in Cleveland, work we're doing within Oberlin Public Schools, and work we're doing at Oberlin Colleges. And I'm also pleased to be joined by my colleague, Caleb Stripes, here today.
Did you click on the presentation? It might still be on the Zoom controls.
All right. So as most of you are quite familiar with, Environmental Dashboard is a communication technology that is focused on communities. It's focused explicitly on engaging, educating, motivating, and empowering communities to be more resilient, more pro-environmental, more pro-community. And it's really a technology designed to connect different components of communities with each other. And I think what you'll see today as students put their proposals forward with you is they're taking a variety of different creative approaches to accomplishing that goal and using this technology to foster and enhance connections within communities. I'm going to be very brief in my explanation of Environmental Dashboard because I think most of you are quite familiar with the technology. But there are four main display apps associated with Environmental Dashboard. Citywide Dashboard is the component that monitors and displays environmental conditions, resource flows within whole communities. Building Dashboard monitors and displays resource flows within buildings and among groups of buildings. Community Voices combines images and words and is used to foster stronger social norms around pro-environmental and pro-community behavior. And the Community Calendar is used to allow people to share important events going on in communities. That information is displayed in a variety of different contexts. Digital signage is really what we see as the central venue for communicating information. Getting this information in people's face, in the spaces in which they live, work, and play. Of course, there's a website associated with too, and we're very pleased about the phone application, which we released this last year, which allows people to access the information from their phones anywhere, but as importantly as that, it allows them to directly interact with and control digital signs within the community. One of the central components that also gets displayed on dashboards are stories. And so several of our groups will be talking about the kinds of story content they're developing for these digital signs. You're seeing here the digital sign that comprises part of our exhibit at Great Lakes Science Center with an interactive touchpad in front of the screen, but also a visitor interacting with the phone app, which also can control the content on that screen. But these stories basically allow us to put together a lot of different information narratives about aspects of communities, aspects of buildings that incorporate green features. And so several of the projects will be discussing the way in which they're constructing stories specifically focused on particular installations. So I want to say no more because I really want to turn these things over to our students to talk about their projects. So this is the order we're going to go in. Each of our groups has 5 minutes to present. We ask that people hold their questions to the end so we can go ahead through these things. And that means you're going to see a lot of information as guests here. If you want to jot down some notes, maybe on your phone, since you might not have brought a pencil and paper, but something so that you can come back to these because we want to give everyone a chance to present and then discuss them as following each presentation. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to our first group of presenters who are going to talk a little bit about the collaboration that we've begun to initiate with Midtown Cleveland.
Forgot to fix that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, we are the group working on the prototype environmental dashboard display for Cleveland Midtown Community. My name is Larissa. My group members are Sydney and Eli. Our primary partner organization is Midtown Cleveland.
So Midtown Cleveland is doing revolutionary work. What they're working on right now is really building this community in the area in between Cleveland Circle, or University Circle and downtown Cleveland, primarily centered around Euclid Avenue. So there's about 2,000 residents right there right now, but that number is expected to grow rapidly, and about 18,000 people who work there every day. So largely commercial, but zoned for residential as well. They are really working to unify all the people who live there right now and build this strong, resilient, independent community. And what they're doing that's really incredible is working on building that community from within, building structures of strength between the community. We're choosing to pioneer our work at Dave's Supermarket, which is the most trafficked community hub and third place in Midtown.
So one of our great opportunities is that Midtown has already a lot of content on their website that they want to share with residents of the Midtown area. They've already done research, they've conducted interviews, they have a lot of resources for residents on their website. And so environmental dashboard is going to be a way for them to further connect and communicate with residents of the Midtown area.
And we have an opportunity to learn from Oberlin, which has a really strong community. The environmental dashboard has been a crucial tool in strengthening Oberlin's community. It highlights core messages that communicate pro-environmental and pro-community behavior, as Dr. Peterson mentioned. And we want to mimic these similar slides in creating slides for Midtown to similarly strengthen the community there. And we're going to take these opportunities and we're hoping to create 3 different categories of slides to be displayed on environmental dashboards around Midtown neighborhood. We're going to have community voices, a vision story, and job listings. And we created an example of each of these slides to show you what we envision Midtown's environmental dashboard to look like.
So as Sydney's mentioned, this is the first category of content, community voices slides, and here you can see an example slide. Basically, as mentioned earlier, Midtown has conducted already a lot of interviews with residents, with community members of the Midtown area, and those slides, Cleveland Metro Parks and Great Lakes Science Center, they're
Hi, you all. The sound keeps cutting out. I'm not sure if everyone else is having the same issue.
categories such as our lake, renewals, etc. But we're also going to be adding this new category called Our Neighbors in hopes of more directly connecting with Midtown's goal of fostering feelings of community within the Midtown area.
Yeah, so while community, the environmental dashboard in Cleveland and in Oberlin, in other places in Cleveland and in Oberlin, has mostly focused on climate action plans for those areas. In their story slides, we're choosing to focus on the Midtown Action Plan, which has broader actions and goals related to the community than just climate, although climate is certainly a part of it. So what we're hoping to do is they've developed these 100 action cards associated with these goals. So we're hoping to help kind of inform residents of all the incredible work that's going on in their community and where the community might be going.
And our third and final category of slides are going to be job ads. Midtown's website has a really robust job board where companies can post open positions, but we want to translate those job listings into screens that can be displayed around the neighborhood so community members will be more tuned into what's available for them and local employment opportunities. So each of these screens is going to have a job title, a brief description, company contact information, and a QR code that links directly to a job application. So applying for these jobs will be really easily accessible for community members. And we have 3 main approaches in this project. Our first is going to be gathering information, which mainly comes from Midtown's website. Midtown has invested a lot of time and resources into interviewing community members, articulating their strategies and goals for the future, and collecting job opportunities. And we want to translate these into slides that can be displayed around the neighborhood and really easily viewed and understood.
So luckily, environmental dashboards in Oberlin and in other parts of Cleveland already have a really strong cohesive aesthetic design. We're hoping to stick with that, but we also want to create content that is well tailored to Midtown and their needs for slides.
And our last step will be receiving feedback from Midtown, which will be very important. We want to build a good relationship with our Midtown collaborators. We want to have a conversation about how to better tailor our environmental dashboard prototype. Eventually, in the future, we will want to receive direct feedback from residents after environmental dashboard has been installed in Dave's Market or other areas, but that is going to be a future goal and a future development of the project.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Our second statement for now.
Hi, I'm Ian,
I'm Camille. I'm Maya.
and we're working on redeveloping Great Lakes Science Center's physical dashboard display. So in Great Lakes Science Center, Cleveland's premier science institution, environmental dashboard, which we've heard about, has an exhibit. This exhibit, targeted at children, intends to give kids and their families a way to understand and see the environment, especially using environmental dashboard, which we have set up in Great Lakes Science Center. This is the exhibit as it currently exists. So from left to right, we have a screen that shows community voices, an interactive bicycle, a poster explaining this, which is just kind of the centerpiece of the exhibit, an interactive tablet, and a screen controlled by that tablet, which people can use to view stories about the environment. This presents many challenges and opportunities for improvement.
So Maya and I have been taking video data analysis since the spring, and we have seen a few main issues with the current exhibit. One main issue is that people, like guests, tend to not understand the connection between the tablet controller and the screen, and they do not understand that they interact with each other and you can actually choose what's being shown on the screen. And the exhibit is currently in a bad location at the Great Lakes Science Center. It's kind of nestled in a corner. So we just need people to understand that it is an exhibit and you can actually go to it, because we're noticing that a lot of guests just tend to walk right past it or just think it's a pretty mural on the wall.
However, understanding and overcoming these challenges presents a lot of opportunities for us with this project. First of all, by having this display and the function be more easily understood for the viewers, especially the children who've had trouble understanding it, will create a better knowledge of how the environmental dashboard works and express that better to the audience. And this overall will create a more efficient learning experience, because our hope is that people will leave the exhibit with a better understanding of the environment and the role they play in it than when they first arrived.
So the desired outcomes are this: we want to instill in the guests, especially kids, more understanding of the environment and the context of Great Lakes Science Center and environmental dashboard.
So like I said previously, me and Maya have been taking data since the spring. And we take that data such on things like who's interacting with the exhibit, for how long, and touch intent, so if they're properly using it. And then we will then compare this data to the new data after the new physical displays are put in, and see if we've made an improvement on education and if they now understand the connection better.
So by taking this new data and comparing it to the data that Camille and I previously took, we'll be able to realize whether or not we were successful in seeing changes. in like the amount of people that are interacting with it, how they're interacting with it, and for how long. And our overall goal in taking this data is to be able to recognize whether or not we have achieved the desired outcomes that Ian just spoke of.
So at the heart, what we're trying to do is to improve the physical signage. I'll go back one slide. You can see we have two mock-ups here of future signs that we'd like to implement in the physical space, with the squirrel graphic and the animals going next to the screen to show people that this is really what you're supposed to do, especially to young kids. And the more wordy graphics that especially have informational text on them going around the television to mirror how the tablet screen can control the TV.
So here's quantitative data after our video analysis. So as you can see, most of our visitors for this exhibit are children. And since it is targeted towards children, we want to make sure that they do understand the connection, because most of them will just see the controller and just want to play on it. And here also the statistics, so things like average group size, what they viewed, for how long they viewed it, and then touch intent if they used it properly.
So our goal is to create signage and then compare this baseline data to the data that we take after implementing signage in Great Lakes Science Center. And we hope to see a measurable effect on especially how long people spend using things and interacting with the exhibit in a meaningful way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we are moving from Cleveland to the city of Oberlin, and in particular to Oberlin Public Schools.
Hello, everyone. So the project we're environmental dashboard display. I'm Anna.
I'm Tessia.
And I'm Belle. So the new, basically the Oberlin Public School System have been using the environmental dashboard and the various tools that John presented earlier in their classrooms for a couple years now. And it's presented enormous positive effects of significant resource reduction, as well as giving children valuable life lessons to take home to their families through the stories shown in the environmental dashboard, as well as the skills they've learned of analyzing the data used in resource monitoring systems. So now Eastwood and Prospect Elementary School have been replaced with a new PK-5 school. This school has been installed with a lot of new exciting green technology that further allows the environmental dashboard to monitor these resources in ways that it's never been before, in a lot more specific and detailed systems. So some of the green features that are in this new school is over 20 separate electrical units that include solar energy produced by the solar arrays for the school, natural gas consumption in the heating system, total water consumption, lighting of distinct rooms in the school, ventilation and AC, heating, as well as electric charging vehicle stations. And these will be able to be monitored by the environmental dashboard and used in schools. It's one of the most advanced monitoring systems probably of any school in the world as far as we know. And the problem is that a lot of the students, faculty, and visitors to the building don't know a lot about these new and exciting green technologies and the benefits that they can bring as far as resource reduction, as well as the lessons they can learn of how to reduce resources, lifestyle changes, things like that. So this presents a really exciting opportunity for us to teach the students, the teachers, and the visitors of the building about the story of this new building and all the exciting technologies that it brings, as well as heighten the environmental dashboard's use for teachers in their lessons and make it apply more to students' lives.
So for the desired outcomes of our work, our goal primarily, first and foremost, is to be collaborating with students and faculty so that the visual content that we're making in our stories is tailored as best as possible to students and teachers' interests and needs, faces that they recognize, and visuals that they want to be interacting with. So ultimately, we'll be creating 4 series of stories, which are here, which will be solar arrays, how is energy use inside, in the school and Oberlin? Why is water important? And what real-time data is available to view? So within these 4 stories, for example, with something like why is water important, what we're hoping to do is give students a better grasp of the broader system and meaning behind the data that they're going to be seeing on the environmental dashboard. So instead of just seeing things like this is energy use and this is water use, we want to be telling the story of where does water come from when it comes out of the faucet? How did it get cleaned so that you can wash your hands with it and drink it? And where does it go when it goes down the drain? How does it get cleaned again before it returns to a larger local body of water? So what we're really hoping students take away from these stories is a broader understanding of the importance of knowing where resources are coming from, where they're going, and empowering students to feel like they can apply this to their day-to-day lives, to their broader understanding of the environment of Oberlin and the community, and ultimately equip them with information they can take home to their friends and family and various loved ones.
In terms of approach, as Tessia already mentioned, first and foremost, this is a project for the students. So getting students' feedback is first and foremost most important to us. So we have a workshop coming up early next month where we'll be in the classroom, the STEAM classroom, with a group of 5th graders, Brandy Hicks's STEAM classroom, to get some feedback from the students on our slides so we can implement their feedback into the slides. And we're also hoping with that process, the students in the classroom will develop a relationship with the environmental dashboard that they might not have had previously by having their hand in sort of the creation of the story. We're also excited to be collaborating with Brandy Hicks just so we can make sure that our stories are digestible from K through 5. We're also excited to be utilizing the principles of systems thinking, which is obviously key to environmental dashboard. Luckily, Oberlin City Schools are international baccalaureate schools, which a lot of the principles of IB also are mirrored in systems thinking. So we're also excited to be meeting with the IB coordinator to the elementary school to sort of get her feedback on how interbaccalaureate principles can also apply to systems thinking and thus our stories. And lastly, we are in our approach, we are really trying to make sure that we create a strong foundation for the new data that is to come. Oberlin City Schools have had a long relationship with the environmental dashboard, but we're excited to be starting a new chapter with this school and all the new technologies that the school brings. So we're hoping to make sure that we've created a set of stories that give students, teachers, and faculty and families the understanding of what is going on with the systems within the school. In addition, how energy is being used in the school. So when this more nuanced data comes as it's being collected, other groups in the future can be creating stories that are easily digestible by the students, but have all the nuances of the data collection. So we're really excited to start this new chapter with the new school.
Awesome, thank you.
Right, and staying within the context of Oberlin.
Hey, everybody. Thank you all for coming, especially those who made it in person, but so glad to see some of you on Zoom, even though we can't actually see your faces right now. Yeah, so Courtney and I are working on a project that is focused on developing new content and enhancing some old content of the environmental dashboard to really try to feature a lot of our sort of shared narrative about sustainability in the town of Oberlin. Our goal is really quite simple. It's just to make sure that people know what's going on with all of our lovely initiatives that we've taken on.
Sure, as one of the big goals of our project, and I think a lot of projects share this, is promoting climate action in our community. So before I started talking about what our actual project is, I just wanted to define what that actually is and what it entails. You can see up here this graphic that shows that climate action is made up of 2 things, mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation is essentially just reducing the emissions that we put into the atmosphere, whereas adaptation is that making sure that ourselves and the communities that we're a part of are flexible and moving into an uncertain future. You can see here there's a size for both categories, and then there's this middle section of different opportunities that use mitigation and adaptation. The city of Oberlin already has a huge array of projects that could fit under this category. For example, We have a dial-a-ride transportation services. We have a bike fix-it program. Oberlin Community Services has just implemented some solar panels, and the money that they're saving on their electricity bills are going to emergency funding of citizens. We have a new citywide composting program, just to mention a few of those things. A lot of these are funded by the city's Sustainable Reserve Fund or a student-run group called the Green Edge Fund. So as you can tell, the city is backing these programs. The city is excited about moving into this resilient future. But an issue that we've noticed is that a lot of citizens and residents of Oberlin don't know that these projects are happening.
So a lot of the projects that Courtney mentioned are outlined in our climate action plan, and some more have been mentioned in the climate vulnerability assessment report. And this is a very long document, both of these, and it focuses around these areas that we have other collaborators in the past have made content for on the dashboard that shows what we are doing. And there's really so much more in both of those documents to showcase on the dashboard. So that's really what we're going to be trying to do.
Sure, that being said, with this idea of these documents possibly being inaccessible to residents, we have this great opportunity with the environmental dashboard because it's a system that's already present in the city. And these screens are all around that citizens are already seeing in their daily lives. By using this, we're just going to create slides on each of these projects to be put up, in addition to using a section of the content called Community Voices. Essentially what Community Voices is, it's pairing an image from the city with a quote said by someone. The quote we're using are from the Climate Vulnerability Assessment in order to empower social environmental action in Oberlin.
So what previous collaborators have really focused on is kind of making general overviews of these 7 topic areas. Our goal, so what that looked like before, mostly was this kind of top style that you see up here. So that gave broad overviews of things the city is doing, which is really great. It gives people a sense of community, a sense of what we're doing, but it doesn't necessarily tell people how to get involved or really tell them more about those initiatives. So our goal is to kind of transform this into a just slightly modified format that will give people more information, more action steps to really get involved and with sustainability in their community.
Sure, as Eric was just saying, those are our broader aspirations, our goals for this project. Obviously, that's going to take some work from us. What we've been doing so far, we've been researching these projects, learning about new things that are currently going on in Oberlin. We've researched the Sustainable Reserve Fund, the Green Edge Fund, kind of ways to get involved with those or to implement your own projects in Oberlin. From there, the step we're currently on is actually building these new slides. We're building slides for every project that we're studying, in addition with slides of how to get funding from the Green Edge Fund if you want to implement a project, and these Community Voices slides that I was discussing earlier. Just to kind of recap our whole presentation, something that we're focusing on the whole thing is that these projects already exist. There are great things going on, but we want to enhance their use by people actually engaging with them, and we want residents to have all of the resources that they possibly can in order to both engage with these projects, to implement their own projects, and just to make it a social norm in Oberlin to have environmental positive action. Thank you again for your time.
And last but not least, we've got the group focusing on what we can do within the bounds of Oberlin College.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well. I am Noah Mobby. This is Bill Hamburger and Clara Brachta, and we are the project group assigned to develop an infrastructure display for Oberlin College in terms of our carbon neutrality efforts going on currently. A quick question, maybe show of hands for those of you living in Oberlin right now. How many of you were slightly annoyed, maybe just like confused about the construction efforts going on around campus? That's a lot of hands, and I was definitely in that same boat. I'm sure a lot of people on campus right now are still in that boat, and that's what we're hoping to address. Bill, take it away.
Yeah. So Oberlin has always tried to be a leader when it comes to climate infrastructure, when it comes to these sustainable infrastructure projects. We always try to serve as examples for other similar institutions around the nation who are also trying to pursue sustainable infrastructure projects. So over the past 20 years, we have constantly been innovating and researching and developing all these sorts of carbon neutral projects. One example, of course, is this building, the AJLC, which is the first building here to run on carbon neutral, geothermal, and solar energy. Obviously, the other big project right now is the construction that's going on everywhere, which is what we're talking about, which has this goal of replacing all the outdated, unsustainable heating and cooling systems with a new geothermal powered energy system, which is sustainable, renewable, and uses this natural energy from the earth to heat and cool the campus rather than unsustainable energy. So the problem that our group is trying to address is that the college does not currently have an easy to understand, accessible way for people to have access to this information. People don't know what's going on around campus. And there's just not a good way for people to learn about why this construction is happening. So what this does is it opens an opportunity for us to address where we're trying to find accessible ways to educate the community. We're going to be creating this accessible content, which serves the purpose of educating community members and college students about why the construction is happening. So yeah, Claire's going to talk a little bit about what our goals for this project are.
Yeah, and in order to address this, we are going to create new environmental dashboard story content that focuses on the carbon neutrality programs going on in Oberlin. So we're going to do heating infrastructure, solar array, environmental policy, and real-time data to educate the community on what it is, how it works, why it's important. And this content that we will be creating will ideally be incorporated into a physical display in the future that will provide an accessible opportunity to educate the Oberlin College community on all of the carbon neutrality efforts.
Right, so this physical display will be in the Wilder Bowl as planned. And so our approach to carrying out this project is first we're going to meet with Janae, who's on Zoom right now, later today, and hope to get some data information from her. She's our Evergreen Energy Liaison. And then once we get this information and do our own research in addition, we will be placing them into these sorts of presentations that Chris mentioned. And of course, we will be looking at displays that have been put in place already and have already been successful, such as those in the Great Lakes Science Center. And we're going to also be trying to really speak to our audience, which is the diverse Oberlin community identity. It's diverse, but also has some shared elements as well. And we'll also be utilizing the principles of systems thinking in our slides. And all of this will be while we are communicating with the part orgs, the Oberlin Office of Sustainability, and of course the Evergreen Energy, partners such as Kevin Brown, who's the Oberlin Chief Facilities Officer, Megan Reister, who is the Assistant VP for Campus Energy and Sustainability, and Joel Batens, who is I think the Senior Manager of Campus Energy and Resources with the Oberlin Office of Sustainability, excuse me. And yeah, that is our project.
Go ahead and have a seat, and we're going to, Caleb, can we flip cameras? So let's see, what's the best way to do this? I guess if you point that camera down. Well, you know what, maybe we just want to flip your computer around so the folks online can see us here. That's probably, if you just flip that camera, because otherwise it's just looking at the back of people's heads. So we are experimenting with a hybrid approach today. So we've got our remote guests are all up on the screen in front of us right now, and hopefully in a moment he will swing his computer around and you'll be able to see the folks in the audience.
You want the people online to see the folks?
I want you to take your make your camera on your computer the camera, and then just flip yours around so people can see us here. And I think you do want to have everyone displayed on the. You want to flip it back so everyone online is shown.
Yeah, I can do that.
Right, and I think you want to make them big. I mean, you don't need us on your screen. You can stop screen share, I guess is what I'm saying. That's okay. Or maybe you just wanna.
I think just click view in the upper right hand corner.
And view the version that is, that's everyone. It's, you wanna view the gallery view is what you want. Just choose gallery view. Yes, that was it. It should put everyone up there.
I think if you take the corner and drag it down now.
You may still be sharing a screen. I think I promised.
We're all Zoom experts now.
I know.
Sorry. Yeah, right.
It's just this button.
Although many of us wish we'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
And then gallery. Yeah, there we go. Boom, we got it. All right. No, it's fine. Switch this around. They get to choose who they see.
Wait.
Avatar on camera. Yes, perfect. All right. After having navigated the challenges of the technology, we are now open to questions from any of our guests right now. Questions, comments. And let me just preface this by saying, as I think I explained to everyone, we're kind of looking at two levels of feedback. If you have comments on the presentations themselves and kind of the way they were presented, that's wonderful. If you have comments and questions on the substance of the presentations, that's also wonderful. The floor is open for both of those.
Hi, well, first I wanted to start off by saying thank you to all the presentations, even outside of the one for Midtown. You guys did a really great job. You were very thoughtful about the items that you presented. And I kind of just wanted to ask a question because I had a little bit of an audio issue. I wasn't sure if it was just on my end with my laptop, but for our group, I wasn't able to really hear the first two slides because it kind of kept going in and out. So I didn't catch the first portion of the slide deck that mentioned highlighting residents. And then I heard bits and pieces of this, the second one that talked about the neighborhood vision plan. So if you guys could maybe circle back to that a little bit and tell me a little bit more about those two, that would be really helpful.
We just like to sit here.
You can just stay where you're
Yes,
seated.
for sure. Or.
Okay.
Sorry.
Easier.
Sorry, Sam. So the community voices slide you wanted to hear about and the story slides, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so for the community voices slides, the idea is that Midtown has already conducted a lot of interviews with residents, with community members. And so we're going to be using primarily that content for creating the community voices slides. The categories of the community voices slides will follow those that already exist for the environmental dashboards of Great Lakes Science Center and Cleveland Metro Parks. But we're going to be adding this new category called Our Neighbors, which more directly emphasizes and exemplifies Midtown's goal of creating a more unified community, of fostering feelings of community within the area.
And Sam, I've also been in contact with Neeraj a lot, and he's compiling a lot more photos and content for us to use. So that's great. And then
so the goal of this slide would to be highlighting some of the quotes and vision that we captured from residents through all of our different engagement processes.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, thank you. And then what was the second?
Oh, and then the other one is we're hoping to kind of adapt the environmental dashboards model of story slides, which have focused on the climate action plan in Oberlin and in other places throughout Cleveland. We're hoping to kind of refine that to focus more on you all's community action plan, highlighting the action cards. Yeah.
And so my question for that is because the neighborhood vision plan has quite a few cards and goals, would you all be specifically streamlining it for specific focus areas? Because it's a wide range of things in the neighborhood vision plan.
I will email you about that because we were not planning on streamlining that, but I think paring down would probably help us create even stronger content. So yeah. I'll be in touch with you on that one.
Perfect.
Awesome, thank you.
And I'll kick it over to my team if you guys have any questions as well.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to say that was really great. And we thought that was a great presentation. We're really excited about getting this lesson. Super great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would love to jump in with a question actually for group one, if you don't mind. I know it was focused on Midtown Cleveland, but I really liked the addition of job listing slides in addition to some of the slides that we go through with our community engagement piece here at the Great Lakes Science Center. I was curious, one question and one suggestion. One is how often would those slides update? Could there be a tie-in to do that in real time so that any job openings that are snapped up are no longer advertised and anything that is just posted is right there available for members in the community who see it? And the suggestion would be, I know you're looking at, like you said, I think QR codes or some kind of scannable codes so that they could be taken directly to that. Just something to think about, maybe having a static, not even necessarily digital resume template download that goes along with that, so that make it easy to quick apply would be a nice resource to offer too.
Yeah, so for the job listings, we're mainly focused on just making a template and a Google form to go along with that for companies to be able to fill out what the information is they want on the slide. So they get to write the description, they get to put in their own contact information, and they can put in a link to whatever job application they have. And that will automatically create the job listing slide, and it will just automatically go to the environmental dashboards.
And currently in Oberlin, we have a community calendar that does a very similar thing where community members can post calendar events and it just gets uploaded into a slide format. So we're hoping to work with Caleb to develop a similar template.
So it would auto-populate. If I were an employer and I filled out the Google Doc, it would auto-populate the slide that is in your in the presentation. Awesome, very cool. Nice job to all the teams.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And Science Center Group, I thought you guys did a great job. You're right. I really appreciated that you saw all of the challenges that we face here as opportunities. It's always how we try to look at it. And I really appreciated your suggestions and your diligence at collecting data about what we in the industry call attraction rates, how many people approach it, and dwell times, which is just how long they interact with it. But thank you very much for some very strong suggestions for how we can make it better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to jump in and again, say thanks. These were all very well-informed project pitches. And what I especially appreciated was that you're drawing on existing data and existing models and learning from the successes and failures of the environmental dashboard leading up to right now. And I'm wondering, most of the teams had a plan of collecting data. I'm wondering how collectively you guys will share that. So if you're getting some information from Midtown or from Oberlin, do those ever merge, and how do they merge, and how, frankly, how would we get that information at the Great Lakes Science Center? Because it's community voices, but are we going to broaden that? Is there any plan to collaborate amongst the projects?
Great question.
I know
You go.
Eric is also taking data on the Watershed Stewardship Center, and we showed him how to take data. So he's currently taking data the same way we take data for the Great Lakes Science Center. So I guess those will overlap.
Right, yeah, we're comparing viewer interaction in both centers and actually using that for comparison. I think there were like a couple elements to your question. One is is the information, are we collectively learning from all projects, and how are we doing that? And then two, I think you were asking, Scott, about how that information gets shared back with, for instance, you guys. Right. So I guess, the sort of collective project analysis is really more sort of at the level of Caleb Stripes, myself, and Cindy France, and those people who are on a sort of separate research team. This particular group is mostly focused on executing projects, individual projects, and so less focused on, obviously they all know about all the projects and they're all trying to learn from every project and build into that knowledge. But this particular group is not so much focused, except for the Great Lakes Science Center, on the sort of research and shared research among those components. But I think we've shared with you, for instance, our analyses of data collected from Great Lakes Science Center, but we're sure anxious and willing to do more of that.
Awesome, thank you.
Janae, you were about to say something, I can tell.
I was mostly fantastic job. This was really great. I work in communications, and I think the way you are thinking about the user experience is really in depth. And I mean, all your presentations, you're really thinking about the user experience and that communication and the end effect on that. So I think that is, you know, you're obviously learning well about this process. And I think, you know, just being really open to continually updating it. So obviously, working on the construction project this year, you know, we put out a lot of information about what was happening on campus, but clearly if it's not getting to the end users that really need it, you're always having to kind of adjust your approach. And so I just think it's a really important thing. You are already thinking about the user experience, but also continuing to think about the effect of that as the projects move forward is really important. So I didn't really have a question. I just want to say great work. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these projects come to fruition.
I can go next. I was really interested in what Claire had to say about the Midtown work. And my question is, how did you choose job updates, job employment opportunities as an item? And somebody mentioned that Oberlin has a community calendar. Like, why did you choose jobs over the community calendar, or is it an either or? And then I really wanted to know about the updating, because that's critical. And we kind of went over that, but I'm really curious how it was decided.
Well,
Well, Midtown's organization on their website already has a job board with a lot of jobs listed, and there are some that are outdated, like already filled, and I'm sure there are a lot more that are available in the community but have not yet been posted on the website. So given that they already have that part of their website, we wanted to translate that into slides, because like in addition to community development, I think there's an aspect of economic development as well. And so job listings and local job opportunities seemed like an important category to include.
And definitely having it update regularly is going to be a challenge that we're still trying to figure out, because while the Google form will provide an easier way of having new opportunities listed, it is going to be a little bit tricky trying to figure out how do we get the opportunities that already have deadlines that are passed or no longer being offered removed. And that's going to be something we're definitely working on to try to figure out.
One suggestion on that is if there was a nominal fee involved that was charged weekly, people would be much more likely to take down old job ads, is just one suggestion I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess just one more piece about that is that in the calendar, if I'm correct, there's a sort of mediator, right? There's somebody who monitors. It doesn't just go immediately from the person putting it on onto the dashboard. And I wonder if you would need that for jobs as well, just to make sure.
I think, let me take a quick answer on that one, because what we do with the calendar, I think, is the model of what we would think about doing for the jobs, where anyone can post to that. It's up for a limited period of time, so that it's going to go off at some point. And there does need to be a mediator who approves things. And I think, again, as Larissa said quite nicely, I think what we're really trying to do with Midtown is discover what you guys already have and how the dashboard might be used as a mechanism for conveying that in this new context of digital signage, and minimizing the extent into which we're reinventing any wheels. So you guys already have a jobs board. And so what we noticed that, thought it was important, and talked with you about it, and thought, okay, well, we'll use the dashboard to do that. But I think it's going to be, obviously, you guys are Midtown, it's going to be on you guys to ultimately approve what goes up or what doesn't go up, and that sort of thing. But I think the beauty of the technology is it's up for a timed period. So it's gonna go off at some point. You're gonna set a date for how long it's gonna be up there, and then it's gonna be gone. And you'd have all the flexibility in the world to pull it down, but it would unquestionably be on Midtown to decide what goes up and what comes down. Again, the nice thing about the way the calendar is set up is anyone can enter the stuff in, so it's crowdsourced in that way. But some human being, AKA one of you folks, needs to say, yes, we approve this, and then it's up on the screen. You know what I mean? So it's not like anyone can put whatever they want up on that screen.
And let me just finish by saying the rest of you guys, I mean, you all did such a good job presenting. I think that, you know, the presentations of good energy, good pacing, all that. I had no criticisms at all for any of the groups. Some of you mentioned really thinking about hands-on with kids. So not just putting something up, but actually having some time where you physically are with the kids. I think that's just so thoughtful and important that to build the comfort with using these tools really one by one and in classroom by classroom will be key. Yep.
John's looking at me. I'm Rob Fillett. I'm the city manager. Can you hear me okay? So I wrote down lists for all the groups, so I'll just rattle it off. So first of all, it's always an honor to be here. You guys do a great job. I agree with Linda. The enthusiasm is clear. Thank you. That really, really is important. So thank you for doing that. I'll address some of the presentation and also the content. But Midtown community, again, I'm really interested in hearing about it. I don't know about you. So maybe a brief, paragraph on what you do, and also a map to show where you are in Cleveland. I've been in Oberlin for 5 years and I'm still trying to figure it out. So those kind of connections, I think, are really important. I just love the local, well-known people connected to the message. And I think for Midtown community, focusing on the grocery store, talking to people who know people in that area with the message, I think that's been a successful strategy in Oberlin, and I would really encourage that. And again, I love the grocery store, the presence of where people gather. The Great Lakes Science Center, just same thing. Again, I know that particular center, but probably for others who don't, having a location where it is in Cleveland. And I was just thinking about the challenge of the display and simple things like, and it sounds silly, I suppose, but have the white squirrel. What's the white squirrel's name again? Flash. Flash, basically say to folks, come visit me, or come press this button, or something that's just really interactive, that just brings people in. I think the challenge is the environmental dashboards and its purpose and how it provides, like say in Oberlin, might be different than the museum, but I think if you draw people in, so maybe it's a different screen for the environment, the location, I think that would be great, because there's lots to learn there if they just take the time. In terms of Oberlin schools, I love the getting behind the scenes perspective on water. As a city manager, I can't tell you how many times I realize that people just think the water comes from the fountain. And the inner workings behind all that is just amazing and very technical. And again, obviously the dashboard can only do so much, but I think to drive that point about water in this case and its environmental impacts and frankly, some of those things, I really think that's great for the students of Oberlin to know. And then also, maybe you said this, I just missed it, electric as well, especially in the area of alternative energies. And we're very proud in Oberlin for our portfolio. So talking about that at a real high level, I think is great. And then finally, I mean, it's like being a refrigerator art, right? Everyone's proud of their work, right? So I love the fact you're trying to incorporate a slide with students to actually see their work. I think that draws you right into it. So if there's a way to doing that, maybe it's a contest, maybe it's something that basically draws folks into paying attention to the dashboard, and then of course with the education that goes with it. In terms of the city of Oberlin, again, we're just really proud of the work that we're able to see and support. I'm intrigued that in terms of Midtown community, talking about broader strategies, I was thinking maybe this is the time to start introducing our 5-point strategy to the community and through the environmental dashboard. And for those who don't know, we connect to city services, environmental sustainability, social equity, community development, and neighborhood enrichment. So maybe there is that moment that can start drawing in the broader context of strategies, and of course, focusing on environmental sustainability, which is really important. I love just promoting the programs in really simple, straightforward ways. You started doing that. I loved it. Like community electric vehicles available, call, boom, right? Of course, our community composting new, call. Those kind of really simple messages. Again, my experience with the dashboard really is more about going to the grocery store, seeing it in downtown versus the website and some of the other social media interactions. So my reactions are more on what I've seen in that regard. And then of course, I think this goes hand in hand with the other strategies, but promoting the strategy, the partnerships we have. The city's very assertive in our ability to try to work with other groups. So I think showing those partnerships in the community, making those connections visually, I think it's really powerful. And then, of course, continuing to seek out support for environmental sustainability through all of our citizens, continuing to make sure we remind everyone that how important this is to us as a society and individually. And then finally, in terms of Oberlin College, again, I think we all, have seen some struggles, but you know what? I keep saying it to my colleagues. Oberlin College is investing $140 million or more. Kevin, you can tell me if that's wrong, but a lot of money, a lot of money into not only the environmental components, but also the stability of the college, improvement of services. That's the story to me, and that's what I tell folks all the time. And then from there, it absolutely has the environmental component that needs to be shouted from the rooftops. So as you were talking about, I don't know where the environmental or the dashboard would be. I thought you said something like Wilder Hall or Bowl or something.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, and this is an old fashioned thing, but well, you probably don't know. John, you'll know. Here, John. Remember when they used to do temperature things, right? And they're fundraising, they would see a temperature kind of roll up. Well, it's an interactive type of visual that says, you know what is it, a 3-year project, Kevin, I think, 3 to 4 kind of thing?
Yeah, about 4.
Yeah, and so basically having that, I'll call it a thermometer, but call it whatever makes attractive sense visually, but to show the fact that because, Linda, you shared a number the other day that the work that you're doing now also is reducing energy and carbon reduction. So show the work, I don't want to say like every day, but do it in a way that, I get the struggles, but yet you've already made an impact in carbon reduction. So do that through the environmental dashboards visually. And then of course, talk about the broader issue of investing in this beautiful college in the future. Then that's what you're doing. So benchmarking, right? But do it in a visual, very attractive way.
You're thinking about maybe like developing some kind of way to track like how close we are to
Where we are.
Yeah.
The completion side as well. That's even better.
How close we are based on the 2025 goal of being fully carbon neutral.
I want to be, thank you so much. I want to be cognizant of the fact that we only ask for an hour of your time and give perhaps 1 minute, since Kevin hasn't said anything yet, for Kevin to say anything he wants to say in 1 minute. Just give him a minute of time.
Well, I've never really addressed most of this crowd, but those who have heard me, I can never say anything in 1 minute. But great presentation, great work, and I think something to think about that I've been talking to the deans and to the campus community is we're going to start increasing use of digital messaging across campus, and you're going to slowly start seeing that over the years as we renovate spaces, become in spaces. So in academic spaces, maybe in dorm spaces, also in like Wilder, a Mud Library, and so a lot of this messaging that we've talked about can be included as we go through it. So there'll be like an environmental message coming through it during times of day as we shift classes and stuff like that. So great presentations. I thank you so much for allowing me to listen to this stuff. I really enjoyed it.
All right, thank you so much. That was unbelievable, Kevin. That was good. Thank you so much to our guests, and of course, special thanks to our student presenters today. So we'll be in touch with everyone who's connected with us either electronically or in person right now, because you guys are all key collaborators on the work we're doing. So thanks so much for your engagement today and your ongoing engagement moving forward. So thanks a lot. Take care, everyone. All right.